Perfect. So you would have all gotten that notification just now that the recording is in progress. And everybody's in, so wonderful. So I want to start this meeting tonight by just acknowledging that the land that we're gathered on, although remotely, is that of Treaty 2, Treaty 4, Treaty 5, Treaty 6, Treaty 8, Treaty 10, and is the traditional territory of the Cree, Dakota, Dene, Lakota, Nakota, Saulteaux, and homeland to the Métis people. Luckily enough, in September, in Canada, we do everybody that the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation will be on the 30th. SSA staff and the board are going to be participating by wearing our orange shirts and encouraging our members to learn more about the process of truth and reconciliation, and of course, wear an orange shirt to honor the spirit of the day. Thank you all so much for signing up to learn more about the FSQ and the marketing and communication support. I know I've had conversations with each of you. You've seen all of my emails outlining why I think it's going to be really beneficial. For us internally, we will also be taking part in this education experience because we know how important marketing and communication is for sport, and especially for soccer, to really stretch out to everybody why this sport is so amazing and what our clubs can offer to the province. And who we have with us tonight is Taryn Lipschitz. Some of you might have met with her earlier. We have had a kind of a quick info session previously in the year. And tonight we're going to have a little bit more of a concrete plan, answer some of the questions, and of course go over a little bit of how this is going to look starting up in November to wrapping up in March. Yeah. So I will put the slide deck up and we'll welcome Taryn, and I'll turn over the presentation to our expert.
Thanks, Eden. Thanks, everyone. It's great to see everyone, and I hope everyone's having a good evening so far. I know it's late. It's already 8 p.m. Sorry, my computer's in Toronto time, and I'm in Winnipeg, and the time zones are just throwing me off a little bit. We're really excited to be here today and talk to you. So my background is, after getting my business degree, I worked in corporate marketing for over 10 years, working with clients in everything from digital app development through to fully integrated cross-country campaigns. And in that time, I worked with clients across every single industry, from CPG to gaming to gambling to food, beverage, fashion, etc. A large chunk of the last few years of my career was spent in sports sponsorship and activation, doing a lot of work with Dairy Farmers of Canada in their Fueling Women Champions program, inspiring and empowering girls and women to stay in sport. And through that, we did all of the brand club partnerships, we did all of the athlete partnerships, and really connecting young athletes with female athletes, like older female athletes, and really inspiring them to stay in sport because of what sport can offer them for life. I then left that world and we started FSQ just over 2 years ago. And really what we try to do is make an impact and support in the business of sport. Sport organizations are a business, and we really come in and support on everything from marketing communication to financial stability and reporting, player development pathways. A lot of the work we've done over the last year is really working with clubs, PSOs and NSOs as well, all of the provincial sport organizations, and supporting the clubs on developing a really strong and sound strategic plan that's very tactical. So everyone within the club is aligned on what are we trying to achieve in this year. And then a lot of the work we also do is on the communication side with clubs, of helping them understand and develop a marketing plan, a marketing funnel, their value proposition, and then understand how are you actually communicating to all of your stakeholders, which stakeholders to us are parents, players, coaches, managers, admins, board members, etc. And making sure that everyone's being communicated to and having that two-way dialogue. We always do surveys with clubs, and the biggest thing we always see is there's always issues and friction and tension around communication, where parents feel like they're not being heard, or coaches feel like there's a lot of fighting between them and the parents. And at the end of the day, we really want to make sure too that kids are having fun and they're staying in sport and staying active for life. And while I'm just on the call today, we do have a large team behind us. So specific team members, if you do have any questions, and like Eden's pulled on the screen, we've worked with clients, everything from grassroots sport organizations through to, PGA of America, the United States Olympic Committee, Heart and Stroke, a lot of big brand names that you would be very familiar with in a lot of different countries. So there's a huge experience, and you can also go on our website to see the larger team and the history of FSQ, because we do bring team members with, over 20, 30 years of experience in the sport world, working with academics, coaches, athletes, players, etc. So I know I do talk quite quickly. So if you do have any questions or want me to slow down, please put it in the chat, raise your hand, or jump in. We do want this to be a two-way dialogue today. I know everyone has received a lot of the stuff that's in this presentation deck, and Eden's done a great job, I know, of communicating the value of what's being provided. So I did want to go through it in a little bit more detail and then really open up the discussion to questions around what's being offered, what does that look like, and how we're really coming in and supporting the clubs. We know a lot of the clubs that we're speaking to tonight or that won't be able to join tonight, there's not a lot of paid staff. There's a lot of people who are volunteers. Often the work gets put onto very few people's plates. So we're really here to help you make your job easier, more enjoyable, and letting you really focus on enjoying soccer and the experience. So really what we wanted to talk about was the work that we're going to be doing, kicking off, like Eden mentioned, in November on that weekend, is helping you develop a strategic marketing plan. The kickoff will be in November, and that day will look, what it'll be broken out into is developing objectives on not just from a marketing perspective, but how marketing is there to support your ability to attract, retain, and grow your club. So it's not just, we're not going to sit here and just talk about social media and your website and what you should be doing on TikTok. We're really going to drive it back even further and say, as a club, what are your objectives? Do you have 200 players and you want to get to 220? Do you have high coach turnover that you maybe want to be able to reduce? So we'll really bring it down to, as a club running as a business, what are your objectives from a business perspective and from a marketing perspective? We'll then dive into how marketing will support building a stronger culture for your club, really improving not just the communication, but the experience that every single stakeholder is having, and then helping you build a marketing plan and all of the assets that you'll need to have a really strong presence. And that goes everything from making sure you have logo requirements to presentation templates and letterhead, to making sure that the messaging on your website is very clear and concise of what you as a club are really offering and what's that experience, what are the programs that you have available. And then the last part that we always tie into is execution. What we don't like to do is come and talk about high level concepts and let you walk away. We're really here to help guide you through the process of creating these assets that you need, understanding the metrics, and then walking you through the implementation and measurement side of it so that you can keep coming back and saying, how are we improving? What was the impact? What did we get out of this? So that's really the big piece where we talk about execution and making sure that there's a huge focus on that, because marketing communication, you will see results when you invest into it. So I'm going to take a quick pause there. Any questions so far? If not, I can keep going and make sure too that we give you some time back in your evening. I'll give everyone a minute while I take a sip of water. Perfect. Well, like I said, very interactive, so please jump in as you do have questions. In terms of what this process will look like in us working together, and sorry, if you can stay on that one slide above, actually, Eden. Thank you. So in terms of the goal, like I mentioned, I know I'm talking a lot about things that we're going to develop, but really some of the outcomes that will be very tangible coming out of this is you will have a marketing strategy, you will have brand guidelines, templates, a content strategy, and the measurement plan. It works out to be, end up being just over 8 hours of training because we're going to take advantage of the fact that we will be in person for 2 of those days, one in November, one in March, and we will have a lunch break in there to make sure that everyone is fed. And then there will be additional commitment time because there's work that will be done, and we'll give you guided homework. We will give you all of the templates. You will not have to create everything from scratch. So that's really what we wanted to make sure it was clear, the outcome goals. And then on the next slide, it's really a breakdown of all of the things in a little bit more detail of what we're going to be going through. So I know I spoke about it high level, but really making sure when we talk about session 1, That kickoff will be in November on the Sunday, right after I know you have a lot of sessions going on the Saturday. We'll go and do the kickoff and concept. We'll be able to get both of those in one day and start on the action side. Action and execution, there'll be 3 sessions I know throughout, and then March we will do the wrap up, which is session 6. Any questions in terms of timelines? And I know the one thing I did want to mention is we will be flexible in when we're booking those virtual meetings, being mindful of schedule, whether it's during the day or we host evening sessions as well, because we do want to make sure too that everyone can attend, and all of those from your club that want to participate can be available. So we will be mindful about that. The other thing I did want to mention, and I know I'm speaking fast, so please jump in if you have any questions. Part of what we're going to be doing in that initial kickoff is talking about the culture of your club and what your purpose is and the value proposition to your community, to your stakeholders, and what makes you different than all the other clubs. So really you have that communication piece, and it's not just comparing one club to the other, but comparing your club to, if parents are looking at, well, if I can sign my kids up for one sport, should it be soccer? Should it be hockey? Should it be swimming? And really making sure it's very clear to all of the stakeholders why they should sign up for your club and what that value is, or why shouldn't they if it's not the right fit for them where they are in their life right now and where their kid is right now. We also, through the discussions, will touch on subjects such as diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as safe sport, and how that ties into your communication pieces, what pieces you need to have developed and prepared as a club. And I know Saskatchewan Soccer Association is doing a lot of work on both those sides to support all of the clubs and having information and resources available. So we'll be working closely together and having discussions around that content. And then in that kickoff session too, that first day, we'll also be talking about who are the people that you're trying to target. If you're living in a community that is seeing a lot of immigrants from a different country in the world, what does that mean from your perspective on a marketing communication? Does your website need to be in more than one language? Do you need to make sure that the imagery that you're including reflects the people that you're trying to attract into your club? So those are just a few of the things that will be integrated into the work we do together. I just wanted to make sure I didn't forget to talk about those. And then it really is at the end, understanding how communication will play a part in attracting, retaining, and growing membership and the experience within the club. So you may say, you know what, Taryn, we have 500 members and that's actually the perfect amount for us. We want to keep it at 500, but we want those 500 to have an even better experience. So that's what we'll focus on with yours, if that's your specific situation. I'm going to take a pause here and open it up to questions, but also before I do, Eden, was there anything else? I know we had a great discussion about this that you wanted to add to that in terms of what we're going to be going through.
No, I think you really hit the target on one of the action items that we're hoping to pull out of our time together. I think the big thing for us is we already know what the timeline of this is going to look like. We have the support mechanisms and the funding available to ensure that this isn't going to be a burden to any of our member organizations. And I'm really hoping that this is an opportunity that everyone takes a part of. I know that there could be some doubts on if you have the capacity to do so, and Taryn has really outlined there that they're going to be working on what works best for your organization to get this done. We have guaranteed the in-person session for November. That's the first Sunday in November, right after our bylaw orientation and potential other member sessions that will be hosted the Saturday before. And then the March date that she was talking about for the last in-person would be the Sunday after our AGM. So we're usually together or have a session that's scheduled for that date shortly after. So we hope that everyone takes advantage of this great opportunity.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing that I was going to add, I know there's a mix of clubs on the call tonight, which is amazing. The one thing that we do want to point out is we know some clubs offer programming for all ages, the whole continuous pathway from those who are just learning how to kick a ball to walking soccer. We know some clubs are specific to youth soccer or adult soccer. This work that we're going to be doing is relevant for everyone. And we'll make sure too that in working together, you're getting the support that you need based on your club's members and the programs that you offer. So that was one thing that I just wanted to make sure we did talk about. I think the last part is just the cost breakdown that's in there, and then we can just really open it up to questions. So like we mentioned, the benefit of having lots of clubs together is we can do it as a group, as a cohort, and it'll reduce the cost per club. And the other part that I wanted to highlight is there is a Canada SASC job grant, which we've actually worked with recently with Lakewood Soccer Association, and they've applied for this, they got the funding, and they're actually submitting by the end of September their invoices and the paperwork for reimbursement. So for any club that does want to submit for this opportunity, it should be a hyperlink, but if the hyperlink's not working for some reason, we can support you. We've filled out all the paperwork, we have it ready to go, so we can make it really easy, and we have a contact there. So for any clubs who did want to consider applying for that grant, we do have the details available. And I know what we've done with some clubs is we've done some additional work, like one-on-one, that's outside of the cohort. So that's where too, you do get up to 10,000 per employee. There are some stipulations. And I know even you have the link up there, which is amazing. So if anyone does have questions on that or wants to know if they're eligible, we're happy to work with you and make sure that that works for you, because we do want as many to participate as possible and benefit from this. So that is me done talking. I told you, Eden, I could probably get it done in under 20 minutes. I do talk quite quickly, but really want to open it up and spend time with any questions from anyone. I know we've got now 25 minutes for quick Q&A and discussion.
Sure. So I welcome everyone. If you'd like to unmute yourself. I do know we had a couple of quick conversations on the phone, but if any of you want to ask some direct questions to Taryn, now is the most opportune time.
Who's going to be the first one?
Well, I will pick on someone.
And you know, if there's no questions or you want to think about it, we're available anytime to follow up on email or quick phone calls as well. If there is anyone who maybe doesn't have anything top of mind right now and wants to come back, there's also no pressure on that.
For sure. How about if I go around and make it kind of a thumbs up opportunity? If everyone knows how to use the reactions, if you could give me, if this is something that your organization is ready to commit to or seriously prepared to take on, can you show me by a thumbs up? Oh, awesome, Amanda. That's really exciting.
And that's a great question from Kelly. So Kelly, in terms of any programs we'll be using throughout, we'll give you some options, free options for clubs to use from a content development, support, design support perspective. There's none that you need to be familiar with. There's ones we'll show you and you can decide if you want to use them. Otherwise, everything will be done either in person or on Zoom. Great question.
Taryn, can you give an example of some type of homework or take home type of education that they would be required to do in that additional hours?
Yeah. So one of the things that we will start off, not in the first session, but one of the follow-ups, one of the pieces of homework is coming up with your club story. So really understanding what is the history of your club, being able to understand, you know, who founded it, why was it founded, what were some interesting stories about it, you know, if it was a club that there's still founders alive or people who were there part of the beginning, you really record and get that rich histories that you can keep and build on. We worked with a club and they had a really interesting, they merged years ago, and they actually had a really interesting story behind their logo that nobody really knew about. One person did. And so we were able to take that and use that in engaging stakeholders, building more of an emotional connection to the club, finding some of those old pictures that can be reused in content and shared again as, you know, those success stories or footage in the future. So that's an example of one little piece that I find to be a really fun exercise, because you really get to speak to a lot of people and understand why did this club exist? Why was it started? And then you can understand, okay, well, now where are we going? What's the story we want to tell in the future? And Joanne, I know you had a question in there about package about dates. So I know the slide we're on doesn't have dates in it. The first date, as Eden mentioned, is November 6th, I believe is the Sunday. 6th in my head.
Yeah. I just put it in the chat there.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. So that's an example. Another example is we actually walk you through developing a content strategy. So what social media channels should you be posting on? How often should you be posting in? What's the message that you should be posting in? So we actually give you the tools and the systems of how you can do that more efficiently, and how you can plan ahead. So it is something that isn't, I know it's sometimes on the side of people's desks, but making sure that it's done in a way that's proactive, that you're sharing valuable content on those channels to people, and making sure that your engagement will give you tips and tricks on how to improve engagement as well. So that's 2 examples, and happy to share some more, though I do want to keep some of them for the actual sessions.
Terry, for the upcoming other sessions after we complete November, how will you go about pre-planning for those? Is it going to be one-on-one with each organization, as a group setting?
Yeah, so what's interesting is in the slide ahead, if clubs want to participate by themselves, we would do working with your schedules, booking those meetings, and making sure that they're based on your schedules that work for you. If we're doing it as cohorts, what we'll do in the working session on the 6th is we'll look at schedules and plan and book those meetings in advance. And what we'll probably do, if there's 4 or 5 clubs participating, we'll probably book 2 sessions just to make sure people have the flexibility if they're during the day or evening, to ensure that people can have at least 1 or 2 options to participate. If a club's unable to, something comes up last minute, we'll make sure too that we have some follow-ups so that you're not missing anything. We record sessions, etc.
Just for the clubs on the call, it looks like we'll probably be in the larger groupings with the organizations grouped together. Unless any of you do decide to go independent, then you just let me know and we would update that process with Taryn. I do have Hugh with his hand up here, so you can go ahead, Hugh, and ask your question.
Just a quick question on that grant. I'm just going through the process and the policy behind it. And it seems it's for new employees and or employees who are going to change positions. What's how do existing employees get that then?
Should be, did I show you the wrong link? Should be for existing.
Yeah, I've got the manual opened up. I just quickly went through it.
I believe I've applied for it before here with PD opportunities, and Taryn used it. You used it for the previous with Lakewood, the same one for existing employees, if that's correct.
There was 1 new and 1 existing.
Yeah,
so
both existing and potential employees are eligible. Just bump that up.
So with the club you did it before, it was with a new employee. They listed it for their new employee, correct?
They did 1 existing and 1 new. So we did both.
And they applied for what, 50-50 or whatever?
Yeah, we did some additional work as well. We did strategic planning, we did an environmental scan. So it was a larger scope with additional support afterwards.
Okay.
So and this is actually a really good point. So if you were interested in a little bit more hands-on, a little bit more one-on-one, let's say you don't have someone who's in marketing communication and you need some support or resource to help you with that, that's why we also can look at the job grant and say, can we look at adding some hours so that you have that additional support and more tailored support still being covered by the job grant. So again, great conversation, and we can definitely go into more detail about it offline if there was something specific you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, no, I'll read more on it.
Thanks for the question, Hugh.
Um,
My sound seems to be okay. Does anyone else having, Matt, I was just saying if anyone else is having any sound cutting in and out? No.
I don't seem to be having issues, but if I'm the issue, then I wouldn't know.
Okay, thanks, Amanda. Taryn, now let's throw some club licensing questions into there for you. Can you give me an example of any soccer clubs that you're working with that's currently part of the club licensing program?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're actually working with a few of the clubs we're working with. These are no secret at all. We're working with Waterloo United out in Ontario. We're working with Lakewood out in Saskatoon. We're working with Mountain United, Coquitlam Metro Ford, Cliff Avenue out in Vancouver. Those are ones that we're actively working with, so they're top of mind. And we're also working with Ontario and BC Soccer and obviously Saskatchewan Soccer, the provincial sport organizations in some work. So what's great about working with both local and provincial sport soccer clubs and the organizations is understanding from a club licensing, when does the communication need to align and support things that are going on with club licensing. And I know with the club licensing, there's a lot of things that need to be due and submitted. So how that communication supports into that.
Thanks, Taryn.
No problem. Any other questions? Perfect. Well, like I mentioned, happy if there's follow-up questions, if anyone wants to hop on a call and go through any questions in detail or submit them to Eden, and we can do like a larger FAQ sent out to the whole team afterwards. Happy to send that through as well.
I'll put up your email on top here. Nope.
Right at the bottom. Right at the bottom.
Why would I?
Yeah.
There we go. That's the slide I was looking for. And also, if there are any questions, in case you don't have this email saved, you can send them over to me and I'll be able to shoot them off to Taryn. Oh, thanks, Taryn. You put that in there.
No problem. Perfect. Well, Raheem, I know, is joined as well. So Raheem, is there any questions from you or anything you wanted to add? Putting you on the spot because I just saw your name pop in.
No worries. Sorry, I'm a little bit late. The baby was not cooperating, so my wife has had to take over, which I'm sure she's having way more success than I am. One of the questions from me is, with some of these COVID supports and like training grants and reskilling grants, it's like how to maximize that for organizations. So is there an opportunity for people to be a part of the group cohort, but in their grant application apply for, if hypothetically it's $10,000, if they do the 2,500, could they apply for $7,500 of additional work and support with FSQ, which could be covered through the grant, tied to other areas, whether that is some of the other modules that you offer, and what would some of those modules be? So like taking marketing and communications as sort of like one large module, what would some of those other opportunities look like?
Yeah, great question, Raheem. And yes, that's why we want to put the job grant availability up there, because they give you 100% of that. It's not like you have to pay 80% or 20%. So additional support we can provide is, like I said, we can dive further into marketing communication, where our team actually does the graphic design, does the content development, so we can go deeper into that. Other areas of support, we have a leadership and executive coach. So if you want to help build your leadership skills, we can set you up with one of our coaches and do some one-on-one working or teamwork or group work. One of our other specialties is in the finance space. So if you want to do a financial audit and really understand the numbers of your club, develop a pro forma, improve financial and accounting processes, there's that realm as well. If you want to, from a player development perspective, and players is also, I would say, athletes and youth, if you want to look at how can you build a better experience for players, we also have that expertise. From a coach development perspective, we have people who can support you on how can you attract, retain, and grow the coaches in your club. So that's just a few examples. Like I said, it'd be great if there's a club on the call who wants to discuss further their unique challenges and where they need the most support. What's interesting is we have a massive virtual team behind us that can support you in different avenues. So I hope that answered the question. I know it's a very big answer.
No, I appreciate it. I think these opportunities don't always come around where their grants can become so accessible, or money for upskilling and re-education is so accessible. So I think it's really a big one where, you know, especially for some of the organizations on the call that are really going through the club licensing process or trying to operationalize their club licensing designation, so to speak, and some of the expectations of them. This really does give opportunities for maximizing what they can get out of this. So not to, like, for people to really consider not just applying for 2,500, but apply for more, get the more and get the approval for more, and utilize external expertise where needed within the organization to, you know, help like elevate and improve the organization as a whole.
Mhm. And the other expertise that I should mention as well is from a governance perspective. We do have someone on our team who has more expertise in the governance side and everything that relates to that, and that's not me. But we do have that as well.
Wonderful. Thanks for answering my question, Taryn.
No problem.
Joan, I just wanted to clarify, make sure I'm not muted here.
No, we can hear you.
Perfect. So your original question was 5 people. Does that mean that any 5 people from SA members join together on the cost of 25, or 5 people from our own club? So Taryn's response was total cost per club is 2,500. That covers 5 people from within that one club.
Perfect. Any other questions? Great. Sometimes silence means good things, sometimes not. But like we've mentioned, if there are any follow-ups, happy to answer any questions or set any follow-up meetings up.
Yeah, thanks so much, Taryn. Definitely after this meeting tonight, I'll be following up with each of you just to work on getting all the commitments down and setting up our first in-person sessions, which will be scheduled for November 6th. Thank you again so much for joining us this evening. I hope this was as informative for all of you as it was for me. Being a person who's taking part of this, I'm very excited to be doing it with Taryn and all the experts over at FSQ. So if we just want to give a nice Saskatchewan thank you to Taryn, and I will wrap that up for the evening. So thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks, Taryn.
Thanks, everyone. It was great speaking with you tonight. And have a great evening.
Thanks, Taryn.
Bye, everyone.
I'll just